The Zorath had conquered dozens of worlds in their quest for dominance. A race of towering armored giants with metallic skin and an intellect honed over millennia, they had scoured the galaxy for species to subjugate and technologies to absorb. Their cold, calculating nature made them the perfect predators, able to crush civilizations under the weight of their superior weaponry, and they had never encountered a species that could stand against them. That was until they discovered Earth. At first, the Zorath saw humanity as just another primitive species, a collection of fragile, hairless apes with a weak military and no apparent technological advancements beyond their early spacefaring vessels. They were insignificant, a distraction at best, a planet to be taken, and a resource to be exploited. The invasion fleet descended like a swarm of locusts, sending waves of ships that hovered in the skies of Earth's major cities, deploying hundreds of thousands of soldiers with their powerful exo-armors to seize the planet. The humans, though, had been preparing for an entirely different war. General Laura Grayson watched from the command center as the first Zorath skirmishers touched down in the Eastern Hemisphere. The human military had seen plenty of conflict over the years, but they had never faced an opponent like this. Their weapons were outdated compared to the Zorath's plasma cannons and energy shields, but that was only part of the story. The real advantage the humans held was something far more elusive. "You ready, sir?" Lieutenant Joshua Carter asked, his eyes never leaving the holographic map of the battlefield. Grayson nodded, her mind still racing over the calculations. "We've got one chance at this. Let them think they have us cornered. That's when we'll strike." The Zorath underestimated the humans in every conceivable way. They believed their superior armor and overwhelming firepower would crush the human resistance without effort. What they didn't account for was the humans' innate adaptability, their creativity, and their relentless determination to protect their home. The Zorath had conquered species far more advanced in technology, yet every time they faced humans, they were forced to rethink their assumptions. The humans used their enemies' arrogance to their advantage. They knew that the Zorath had never faced an opponent that could adapt on the fly, that could evolve tactics as quickly as they were tested. Grayson and her team exploited every weakness they could find, turning the Zorath's heavy-handedness against them. The enemy soldiers, despite their advanced exosuits, struggled to deal with the guerrilla tactics of the human forces, who utilized their home terrain to set traps, ambush convoys, and strike in ways the Zorath never anticipated. But the true edge the humans had over the Zorath was something far deeper than strategy or technology. It was their sheer will to survive. The Zorath, for all their power, had grown complacent over centuries of conquest. They believed their dominance was inevitable. They didn't understand what it meant to fight for survival against all odds, to defend everything that made life worth living. It wasn't just their world the humans were fighting for. It was their families, their culture, their very way of life. The Zorath couldn't comprehend that. They only knew how to subjugate, how to dominate. But the human spirit was different. It was something primal, a fire that burned within them no matter the odds, no matter the cost. Days turned into weeks and the Zorath forces began to falter. The human resistance grew stronger, more coordinated. The Zorath, in their arrogance, had underestimated not just their enemies' abilities, but the very concept of humanity itself. For every Zorath exosuit destroyed, for every ship lost, the humans became more unified, more determined. In the darkest hours, when it seemed like they were on the brink of defeat, humanity's resilience shone brightest. The final battle took place in the heart of what was once New York City. The Zorath had launched an all-out assault, expecting to finish the war in one decisive strike. But they didn't account for the human penchant for defiance. Grayson, leading the final offensive, knew the enemy's strategy. She had studied their tactics, their flaws, their overconfidence. She knew that if she could trap the Zorath in a confined area, she could break their lines. And so she led her forces into the heart of the city, where the Zorath thought their superior numbers and armor would give them the edge. The city's winding streets, tall buildings, and broken infrastructure made it the perfect battleground for human ingenuity. As the battle raged on, Grayson gave the order. A massive EMP burst surged through the heart of the city, knocking out the Zorath systems and rendering their weapons useless. With their exosuits offline, the Zorath soldiers were nothing more than heavily armored targets. The humans swarmed in using every piece of technology, every tactic, every ounce of creativity they had learned over the last few weeks to dismantle the once mighty Zorath army. When the dust settled, the Zorath had been defeated. Their fleet was shattered, their exosuits disabled, and their invincible forces were brought to their knees. General Grayson stood at the edge of the ruined city, looking out at the remains of the battle. She knew the war was over and the humans had won. Not because they had the most advanced technology, but because they understood something the Zorath would never grasp. The human will to survive, to adapt, to overcome, was a force more powerful than anything else in the universe.